Good to go.
Good to go, all right. All right, good evening. Welcome to the applicants. There aren't really any applicants in the room, but board members, members of the public, if there are any on Zoom. This is the May 20th, 2025 meeting of the City of Bangor's Planning Board. It is 7:01 p.m. My name is Reese Perkins, Chairman of the board. Other board members in attendance this evening are Michael Bazinet, Ted Brush, Vice Chair Jonathan Boucher, Tricia Hayes, Ken Hume, and Janet Jonas. Board members are volunteers from the Bangor community. City staff members in attendance this evening include Planning Officer Anya Collette and Solicitor Dave Sebchuk this evening. We thank them and all of you for getting this meeting taken care of this evening. Let's get to old business first, and just a note, because I didn't say that last time, kind of left Trish out because she hadn't been there the meeting before, which seems awkward. So board members will be asked to vote on things based upon their attendance at the relevant meeting. So the first order of old business is meeting minutes from May 6, 2025.
Move to approve.
Move to approve. Member Hume moves to approve, and I had a second from Member Bazinet first. Yes, and Member Hayes, did you have any comments on that?
I do.
Please do.
The date on the minutes is April 15th, not May. And it was
Good
listed,
pickup.
Brian as being here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good catch. I should say that,
Yes.
yeah. Move to not approve. Or approve as amended.
Yeah, approve as amended. Read it right away. So we have a motion as amended, and a second still, Member Bazinet. Okay, any other modifications, comments, concerns? All right, so I'm gonna do a roll call vote on the motion to approve as amended. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes,
Member Hume?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we have approval of the meeting minutes for May 6 with the amendments made or to be made.
Question, you mentioned something about Brian. You said he shouldn't be here, but he was here for that.
Oh, he
That
was
the
that.
last
Okay.
one.
Yeah, at that meeting,
All
it's only the
right, yeah.
last meeting he wasn't there.
yeah.
Okay, so the next item of old business is adoption of revised findings for 154 Sunset Ave, which we reviewed during the September 3rd, 2024 meeting. Does everyone understand that, what happened there? I mean, we didn't reference in the actual finding the first phase, and we should have, and so we now do. That's really the only change there. So do I have a motion of adoption of the revised findings for 154 Sunset Avenue? Not Member Hume, because you weren't there.
So moved.
Member Boucher?
Yep.
Thank you. Do I have a second on this one? Member Jonas, thank you. Roll call vote on the adoption of revised findings for 154 Sunset Ave. Member Bazinet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes,
Member Jonas?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we have unanimous approval of that item. So moving on to new business. I will just do my little bit of introduction to the new business items. As we know, we review amendments to land development code, which typically include either changes to zoning districts or changes to text within the code. Our review of these amendments includes adherence to the comprehensive plan, as well as consideration of any applicable concerns from the public. Our vote on these items should be in the form of a recommendation to the city council as to whether the item ought to pass or ought not to pass, and typically a reminder that we usually go with ought to pass, even if you vote no, just to make it clear what we are trying to vote on. The city council then will make the final decision on zoning and land development code changes. There are two items on the agenda this evening that are those items. The second thing, of course, that we do are land development permits, commonly known as site plan review. There are none of those this evening, however. Information on city codes and standards and the comprehensive plan can be found on the city's website. Before we get started on that, I just go through a little bit of a general formatting of what we do. The proposed code amendments on the agenda are staff-led changes, so we'll let Planning Officer Collette introduce each of those items. After her review and any board member questions, we will allow for public comment if there is any public that shows up that wants to discuss. For public comment, we'll ask people to either come to the podium, or in this case, since there's no one here, if there's anyone on Zoom, we would bring them in. Ask them to use the comprehensive plan or codes and standards as any backup for their thoughts after they introduce themselves. As we typically do, all comments and discussion should remain respectful and considerate, of course. And then once public comments are completed, we will close that item and the board will deliberate on the item based upon standards. So, new business this evening, excuse me, the first is a code amendment to amend the land development code by adding a general public safety use to the airport district, the airport development district. Planning Officer Collette.
Yep, so this is a pretty simple change to just add a public safety use to this district. The primary reason being, this is where the proposed new fire training facility is going to be, once they want to be located, but it wouldn't be allowed in this zone. While there are many other interesting types of uses allowed in this zone, like restaurants and schools and things like that, it seems to make sense to add a public safety use also. So.
Thank you. Board member questions? Comments on this one? It's pretty simple, pretty easy. Can you show if we have anyone on Zoom? We have no one on Zoom, so I'm not going to open for public comment because there is no public in attendance or on Zoom. We're going to consider the public comment closed. Yes.
Could you just open it and close
Absolutely,
it?
I'd be happy
Just
to.
as a matter of
I'll
formality.
open public comment.
That was what I suggest.
Yep, it's fine.
All right.
I understand. And seeing no one, I will close public comment. I would look for, unless board members have any further thoughts or questions on this item, I would look for a motion on the proposal, which would be typically a recommendation of ought to pass to the city council for a final vote. Member Hume, will you give it a shot?
Chair, I move that we recommend to the city council that they pass adding to chapter 165, the Code of the City of Bangor, to add a public safety use to the, such as fire protection and law enforcement, to the airport development district.
Thank you. Do I have a second on this one? Member Brush, thank you. And so I'm going to go the roll call vote on this. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes,
Member Hume?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So unanimous approval of this item. And it will move on to the city council meeting, which I assume would be next week.
Yes.
And so the next item of new business is to amend the land development code by providing additional clarification on requirements for the land development permits. I'll let Planning Officer Collette present this item.
So you all had reviewed this at a previous meeting, I believe it was in March, where we were proposing 3 different changes. One of those was to require that for certain types of development where they're going to have phases, or there's only going to be partial occupancy, or there's going to be partial occupancy prior to completion, that they give us a phasing plan. Those types of developments would be something like townhouses where they're being sold off, maybe as they're developing. And so we want them to provide that so they can show us when the site improvements are going to be completed, before they get those certificates of occupancy. So this helps clarify that. The second change would be preventing someone who has outstanding notices of violation on for the land development code on the subject property or a different property and implied in the city prevents them from trying to get a new land development permit. And that just is one avenue of helping to resolve the land development code violations. And other communities do that as well. And then the third one is just to clarify, or really add flexibility for expiration of land development permits, where currently somebody has to apply before it expires if they need to extend it. This would give them 90 days after expiration to apply. It keeps all the other requirements. And then it also clarifies that, you know, if there's been a change in ownership and there was a bond involved, say with like a solar development, that they need to get a new bond. And then if it's a subdivision, they still need to go through you all because they have to re-endorse the plan. So, but it could come back as a minor subdivision if it was major, so, yeah.
Good, thank you. Board member questions? Member Boucher, you had a couple of
Oh,
comments.
sure. For the one about the, if there's violations, would an application prompt a review to see if they had any violations? Or I'm just wondering what's happening there. Would their properties be reviewed at that point to see if there's any active? My question is, will it be known violations that we have or that we're trying to get reconciled, or will it prompt a review of their properties to see if there's any active violations that haven't been acknowledged or reviewed already?
It would be known, so it would be where they've been given a notice of violation. So it's on paper that they have these outstanding.
So just because somebody applies doesn't mean you're gonna go look at other
No.
properties and see?
No,
Yeah.
but it would be at the application stage, so like when we receive it, us in code would go and look through the records to see if this owner or applicant has any outstanding violations.
I figured, but what about in the case of LLCs? If it's, say, John Smith, there's someone,
Right.
an individual, that's straightforward, you know that, but if in the case of LLCs, they could be a member of an LLC, or they could have just created a new LLC for the purpose of this property that they purchased, and would have no code violations under the
Yeah.
name of the new LLC.
So
How's that scenario work?
The submission requirements actually require for situations like that they provide us a list of ownership, a list of owners in their company, and then we can look and see, do those owners, you know, have outstanding violations, or do they have LLCs? that
And it
have
would be
outstanding
applicable in
violations?
that case, so say that individual, one individual of many in an LLC potentially was, had violations that were pending. They would not be eligible to move forward with the occupancy until, the LLC in general would not be allowed to move forward until that individual had their situation cleared
Yeah,
up.
it's the way we do it with short-term rentals. We also have language in there to get that information and make sure that they can't get a permit if they have outstanding issues. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me, I'm glad that you've had that as part of your strategy, because it makes sense, because people would just create LLCs
Right.
to avoid this every time.
Yeah, and we do have quite a few LLCs that apply for permits, land development permits, so we did talk about that.
It's a great question.
Absolutely.
More board member questions, comments? Is it retroactive?
No, what do you mean by that exactly?
So if someone had a notice of violation currently, and we were to get this approved by the city council, would it then matter if they got an application, made an application on something that they already had a notice of violation before it became a code?
I think the way it works would be if someone files an application, that activates the review of whether they have any
Could be a
outstanding NOVs.
Could be a
Right.
2-year-old NOV,
But if it's still outstanding at the time they file the application,
still outstanding?
yeah.
Okay, thank you. I see no more board member questions, so I'm going to open up public comments. Check Zoom. I see no public comments, see no raised hands, nobody here this evening to ask for public comments, so close public comments for this item. further review or comments by the board? If there are none, I would look for a motion, typically ought to pass, for this item. Member Boucher.
Chair, I move that we recommend this ought to pass, the amendment of the Land Development Code, providing additional clarification on requirements for land development permits as written here in the meeting notes, the packet notes, yeah.
Thank you. Do I have a second on this one? Member Basnet, thank you, and roll call vote. Member Basnet?
Yes.
Member Boucher?
Yes.
Member Brush?
Yes.
Member Hayes?
Yes.
Member Hume?
Yes.
Member Jonas?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So unanimous approval of the second item, the second new business item for clarification on land development permits. And that will move on to the city council meeting next week as well. For other business this evening, we always keep an open item on thoughts on land development code and land use planning. I did note that last Monday, yesterday, I think it was, Economic Development Director Krieg was looking for ideas on CDBG fund usage.
Right,
I don't know if that means anything to this panel or not, or if we'd want to bring that up, but that was the only thing I could think of.
not exactly. So do you all know what CDBG is?
Community Development Block Grant.
Yeah, so it's federal funding that we get, that is used directly in the community for things like helping low to moderate income homeowners pay for, heating system replacements or rehabbing their homes. Also helps pay for sidewalks in certain neighborhoods and stuff like that. So Robin, our community development officer, every year, I think it's every year, every 5 years, has to develop a plan for how to use those funds, and she takes a lot of public input. And it's kind of like a comprehensive plan, but for CDBG, and basically, ask people to say, where do you think we should prioritize spending this funding in the community? So that's what that is.
Any questions on that or anything else as far as land use planning goes? Board members, easy meeting so far. That is the last item, unless anyone wants to bring anything else up. Another short, easy meeting, which is kind of nice. But as we said earlier, we'd like to see more land development permits because that's what's important to city growth. Nonetheless, we do need to sign documents, except for Member Hume, for the revised Sunset Ave project. So please sign that before you go. And otherwise, it is 7:19 PM. The meeting is adjourned. There we go.
Do you just want to pass this down?
Sure.
Almost did.
Thank you.